Hey, welcome everybody. We're going to have a great night here and listen to a good friend of mine. I know a good friend to a lot of other people who are here, Maj Ragain. And Maj is going to, and if you probably already know, Maj is a long, Oney, Illinois native, but a long-time Northeast Ohio resident, and has a lot to say and a lot that needs to be listened to. And he's going to read for a while, and then it'll be open up for other people who want to share their own words for a bit after that, and then Maj will close it out with a little bit more. So, without any further ado, Maj Ragain.
Hey. All right. Sound levels okay, Andy?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a great room, and I'm glad to be back here. I think the last time was 2009, and yeah, I can feel the poem still hanging in the air. That right here, and I want to hear your work. I come listen to. Rogue wave in the rose bushes. I told my wife Lou, after the rose bush had snapped back and thorned her cheek, after she had lost her silver earring in the flower bed, after we lay quietly walking the mountains on the bedroom ceiling, I said, Lou, let's leave it all behind now. Clean out the bank accounts, throw the breaker switches, tell the neighbors, come get what you want. The doors are open. Let's black spray paint Jesus Loves Me all over moms. I'm in the nursing home now. 1995 Cherry Delta Royale Oldsmobile. Let's run it through the car wash with the windows down. Half a dozen times, you and me riding up front. Let's get waxed and make a run toward the moonrise, the notch off full. Because when it comes, that rogue wave, we won't have time to babble more than a mouthful of words kicking around in the blue light, streaming silver shards at each other. Then we'll be swept away into the cold, into the dark. But this moment, the air is cinnamon, sandalwood, sweat-honeyed, here on this high ground with you. For Daniel Thompson, my old friend, gone 11 years now. Read with him here a long time ago. Living day to day is never what it seems. Oh, Daniel, what is this life we share in snow and cold and hope, barren trees and drums, poems and hostage hearts, and the body's secret life? Midnight accordions, the grief of widows, pale sunlight on an oak table, a window facing west. Damn. Fancy Gap, we call it Fancy Gap, North Carolina, cut east and west through the Blue Ridge. I am parked in the side lot of Shoney's restaurant, my head back, catching the morning sun. Eyes closed, a break from the 1,100-mile drive back to Cleveland. I hear him sweeping behind me, whisk, whisk, the metal scrape of the dustpan. He hunts cigarette butts, bottle caps, detritus from the caravan on I-77. He's a big guy, broken down feet, a blue ball cap, working the asphalt rink. Shoney's Zamboni man. Good morning, I say. Morning, he grins. I offer him my hand. My name. He shakes my hand and he says his name is Tommy Justice, from up West Virginia way. Now he lives in Fancy Gap. How come they call the town Fancy Gap, Tommy? Ain't no town, just a gap, he says. Wind whips through 60, 70 miles an hour, turns over semis, cars. Nobody knows when it's coming. Why they call it Fancy, I ask. Don't rightly know, I just live here. I worked in the coal mines 15 years in West Virginia until a 500-pound rock fell on me. I was under what they call a kettle hole, racing it up when it fell. The rock crossed my back. Took 6 men half an hour to get it off of me. My brother was there. He pulled me out. And when I got home, I told the wife, I'll never go in that hole again. We moved down here to Fancy Gap. Look, here on my back, you can still see the scrapes. He puts down the broom and dustpan and shows me the rakes across the middle of his back like the nails of an angry hand. The worst part of it all was working in the dog holes, a tunnel no bigger than for a dog to crawl through. And I brought out chunks of coal, clamped between my knees. The talk trails off here. Tommy Justice leans on his broom and looks up at the cloudless sky. My eyes follow his up into the empty kettle hole of heaven. Used to be a guy around Kent, one of those sidewalk crazy men, one of those Zuni clowns, one of those hillbilly geniuses that spoke fire, and he's down in New Mexico now living in a teepee, I think. But this is a conversation with William E. Towers. The remnants of last week's hurricane crawl into northeast Ohio, a gray dance of drizzle. I call handyman Billy Towers, floating around in his bathtub of warm beer, his third floor, one-room home overlooking the parking lot of the Veterans of Foreign Wars here in Kent. And I tell him, sorry, no work here today, Billy. Too wet to plow in my basement. Too wet to plow. Too wet to paint. God bless you, brother, says Billy. I just woke up. Every man is innocent in his dreams. May you be caught, he says, in the rapture of the things of this world and not by those in the next. And don't you drink too much of that Wobble Pop. How's your daughter Megan, Billy asks. I say, Billy, she's working at home health care still, driving around Portage County in her old Toyota, helping Medicare folks, Medicaid folks, God's wounded children. Billy said that's hard work. You got to weep with the ones that weep. But you tell her that Billy said, don't go walking in Bitter Creek. If she hears her voice getting crackly and grouchy, it's time to get out. And Maj, you take that little man who's dancing on your chest and put him back inside. Oh, you got a jewel in your heart. And tell everyone you meet today to have mercy before judgment. God bless you, brother. And God bless you, Billy, this gunmetal gray day. Very much verbatim. And Billy, I miss him. Written on a Friday afternoon on the road from Kent, Ohio to Detroit for a poetry reading. I come to hear those poets who show us there is more to the world than everything in the world. I come to hear those poets who find ways to light the lamp at the base of the spine, a brief flame in the jaws of darkness. I come to hear those poets with half-eaten hearts who can forget themselves and make their home in the nameless. I come to hear those poets for whom every word is a communion wafer, every line of a poem a strand of barbed wire, every poem a broken Rosetta Stone. I come to hear those poets who nail their poems to the devil's door, knock hard a dozen times, and do not run away. I come to hear those poets who hunt their own hearts out in the world, the stone soup makers and the thirst slakers, those poets who are witnesses for the defense of all that is good in each of us. A nest of stories. A golden hammer cracks the hard case of the meat heart, the nut buried in the chest. On Mount Imagall, Ireland, the granite is stained with brush strokes of blood pale in the morning fog. When you empty yourself, you are being prepared to be filled again, whether or not you know this. Climb the 100-stone steps to the Inca temple of Oaxaca. Bring gifts of blood oranges, black ropes of braided hair. The secret keeper, his name is Ramon Jimenez Ojeda. He is a stone cutter in the village below. In his 10th year, he apprenticed himself to the gods. He tells every seeker what they did not wish to hear, that the real world is beyond the senses. Words are smoke. The Pleiades, the 7 sisters, climb the starry ladder into the fall sky. A purse caught and tore on the horn of the quarter moon. The coins fell to earth in a meteor shower of silver. The sisters recovered all but one coin. The number 7 is welded on each side of that coin, along with the cipher to a forgotten language. If you find it, you must return it, whatever the cost. If you keep it, frost will eat the world. In the late winter yard, a single anemone, a Grecian windflower, has thrust into bloom. Tiny, pale, yellow petals, black heart, balanced on a toothpick leg. I name it yearning, that jewel. If I have begged when I should have given, I prayed for forgiveness as the final fruit of Christ's love. If I have wounded the Buddha with the dull sword forged by my own stupidity, I bow once, the blade of folded hands against my own forehead. A cairn of evergreen cones marks a far north grave. Fierce, tiny ghost dogs roam a hospital bedside table, barking at death to stay his cold hand. Tibetan prayer flags ride the spring wind, offering our longings to the world. The diamond gate to Neverland remains sealed to those who look backwards. The river of this day runs ever clear. The flashing scimitar, wielded by the hanged man's son, severs the head of the Gargon who has pursued us for so long. Together at the cliff's edge, we watch it drop into the sea far below us. The world is no more than a dream. God is the dreamer. When you awaken, you will know what to do. The brief life of honeysuckle. This evening in Illinois, Burner Lake down by the earthen dam, we were fishing the last light. The spring sky had cleared after an hour of hard rain. For a week, the wild honeysuckle had been in full bloom. The quarter-mile spangle along the dam, gold and white blossom, the sweet musky scent lifting us out of the boat, out of our hard shells. The sunset-kissed clouds had turned a pale ostrich pink before fading. Then, in a burst of sound, I looked up just as they flashed overhead, a great horned owl pursued by one red-winged blackbird, colors flared, led by another red wing. A few seconds, and they wheeled around a stand of trees and gone. 16-year-old Brad, fishing with me, spoke with his Cherokee blood tongue. It's an omen, the opening and closing of a door. On the way back to the dock, the words of the Prophet Muhammad came back to me. He said, God has made a polish for everything that tarnishes, and the polish for the heart is remembrance. What brushed past me this evening? That dark wing polishes my heart even now. Time for poems from you. I know you got them.
A short one that's a good follow-up to that.